About 3 years ago, when I was in my mid-20s, I moved to the city for a new job. I didn't know anyone there, and I didn't have much money saved yet. So I ended up renting a small apartment in an older building on the edge of downtown. The rent was strangely cheap. At the time, I thought I had just gotten lucky. But a few days after I moved in, I started to understand why no one else wanted to live there. The building was quiet. Not normal quiet. The kind of quiet where you realize you haven't heard a single door open or a single set of footsteps since the day you moved in. And then the knocking started. Every night, almost exactly at 2:14 a.m., 3 slow knocks. Knock, knock, knock. The first night, I assumed it was a neighbor who had the wrong apartment. I opened the door. The hallway was completely empty. No one there. I checked both directions down the corridor, but it was silent. The next night it happened again. 2:14 a.m. 3 knocks. Knock, knock, knock. This time I opened the door immediately. Again, nobody. Just the long, dim hallway and the flickering light above the stairwell. The next morning, I asked the building manager about my neighbors. He looked confused. Then he said something that didn't make sense. "You're the only tenant on that floor." I laughed, thinking he was joking. But later that day, when I walked down the hallway, I noticed something unsettling. Most of the apartment doors had chains wrapped around their handles from the outside, like the units had been sealed shut. That night, I decided I wouldn't open the door. At 2:14 a.m. exactly, the knocking started again. Knock, knock, knock. But this time, I heard something else after the knocking. A very faint sound. A voice. Right on the other side of the door. A man whispering, "Please, let me in." I froze. I didn't move. A few seconds passed. Then the voice came again. This time it sounded slightly different. Still calm, but colder. "I know you're in there." Then the knocking came again. Louder now. Knock, knock, knock. Then the voice spoke again. "Why won't you open the door?" There was a long pause. Then the man whispered something that made my stomach drop. "You opened it for me. Last night." But I never did. I stayed completely still, barely breathing. Eventually the knocking stopped. The hallway went silent again. The next morning, I slowly opened the door. The hallway looked exactly the same as always. Empty. But when I looked down at my door, I saw something that hadn't been there before. Long scratches in the wood. Deep ones, like someone had been trying to claw their way inside. But the thing that terrified me the most was what I saw on the floor. Footprints. Dirty footprints. But they weren't leading toward my door. They were leading away from it, as if someone had walked out of my apartment during the night. My wife and I moved into an old house about a year ago. It was cheap, suspiciously cheap, but we needed a fresh start, and the place seemed quiet enough. The kind of quiet you only find in small towns, where nothing really happens. At least, that's what we thought. About 2 weeks after we moved in, I decided to clean out the basement. The previous owner had left behind boxes, broken shelves, and layers of old, peeling wallpaper on the walls. While I was pulling some of that wallpaper off, I noticed something strange. The pattern on the wall wasn't continuous. There were straight lines underneath it. I tore off a larger piece and stepped back. Behind the wallpaper was the outline of a small door. At first, I thought it was just an old storage panel someone had sealed up. But when I cleared the rest of the paper away, I found a rusted metal ring where the handle should have been. What bothered me was this. I had the house plans the realtor gave us. That door wasn't on them. Still, curiosity won. I grabbed the ring and pulled. The door opened with a slow, grinding sound. Behind it was a narrow stone staircase leading down, which made absolutely no sense, because the basement was already underground. I stood there for a while before grabbing a flashlight. Then I started walking down. Every step echoed in a way that made the space feel deeper than it should have been. When I reached the bottom, the stairs opened into a small concrete room. No windows, no furniture, just bare walls. But that wasn't the strange part. The strange part was the man standing in the corner. He was tall, wearing a dark coat and an old hat, just standing there, facing the wall. He didn't move. I assumed he was some kind of squatter. "Hey," I called out. "You can't be down here." Nothing. I took a few cautious steps closer. That's when I noticed something that made my stomach drop. He was standing way too close to the wall. His face looked like it was pressed into the concrete. At first, I thought maybe he had fallen asleep or passed out standing up. Then his head started moving. Slowly. Very slowly. But not pulling away from the wall. Instead, it began turning sideways, rotating, until his face pointed directly at me. The problem was, his body never moved, just his head. I couldn't clearly see his eyes in the dark, but I knew he was looking straight at me. My flashlight slipped out of my hand and hit the floor. And that's when I ran. I bolted up the stairs, slammed the hidden door shut, and didn't go back down that night. The next morning, I called the police. 2 officers came over and went down into the room first. After a minute, they told me to come down. The room was empty. No man, no footprints, nothing. But the walls were covered in carvings, scratched deep into the concrete. The same sentence repeated over and over again. "Don't let him see you." I had the door sealed with concrete that same day. Now the basement looks normal again. But ever since we closed it, something strange has been happening. Late at night, when the house is completely quiet, I sometimes hear slow footsteps under the floor. The disturbing part is, the sound isn't coming from beneath the basement. It sounds like it's moving inside the walls. And sometimes, the footsteps stop completely, right behind me. This started about a year ago. I live in a quiet neighborhood, the kind of place where nothing unusual ever happens. Most nights are completely silent. One night, around 11 p.m., I looked out my living room window before going to bed. That's when I saw him. A man sitting in a car across the street. The engine was off. The headlights were off. He was just sitting there, in the dark. At first, I thought he was waiting for someone, but the next night, he was there again. Same car, same spot, not moving. I tried to ignore it. People park on streets all the time. But after a few nights, something started to feel wrong. Because every time I looked outside, he was staring directly at my house. Not at his phone, not at the road, just my house. One night, I decided to test something. I turned off all the lights inside my living room. Then I watched him from the darkness. The moment the lights went out, the car door slowly opened. The man stepped out. He walked across the street and stopped under the streetlight in front of my house. Then he just stood there, looking at my front door. He didn't knock. He didn't move. He just stood there, watching. After about 10 minutes, he walked back to his car and drove away. The next morning, I checked my security cameras. That's when things became worse, because the footage showed something I didn't notice from the window. When he stood under the streetlight, he wasn't looking at the door. He was looking directly at the security camera, like he knew exactly where it was. After that night, I started feeling uncomfortable in my own house. About a week later, something else happened. Around 2 a.m., I woke up to a strange metallic sound outside. It sounded like someone touching a fence. So I opened the camera app on my phone, and there he was again, standing beside my front gate. He wasn't trying to open it. He was just resting his hand on the metal bars, slowly sliding his fingers across them. Back and forth, back and forth, like he was thinking about something. He stayed there for almost 20 minutes. Then he walked away. I called the police the next morning, but they said they couldn't do anything. He's just standing on the street, they told me. He hasn't committed a crime. A few weeks passed. Then one night, he came back. Same car, same spot. But this time he stayed longer, almost 2 hours. Before leaving, he turned the light on inside the car for just a second. Just long enough for my camera to capture his face clearly. And when I paused the footage, my stomach dropped. I had seen him before, 2 days earlier, inside the grocery store near my house, standing behind me in line, watching me, the same way he watched my house. That night, I couldn't sleep. Around 3 a.m., I heard something outside again. Footsteps. Slow footsteps on the gravel near my porch. I opened the camera app immediately. He was standing right in front of my door, closer than ever before. But this time, he wasn't just standing there. He was holding something. A knife. A long kitchen knife. He looked directly at the camera, then slowly raised the knife, not in a threatening way, just showing it, like he wanted me to see it. I froze. I didn't move. I didn't breathe. After a few seconds, he smiled slightly. Then he turned around and walked away into the darkness. The next morning, I packed everything I owned. Within a week, I moved to another city, a different state, a completely different neighborhood. I never saw that man again. But sometimes, late at night, when I hear a car stop outside my house, I still wonder if he finally found me again.